It's Uvalde Radio. Robert McGill here with you, getting excited because this weekend is opening weekend with our friends down the way at Graff 7A Ranch in Hondo. They've got all kinds of great live music planned for us at the Dance Barn, the big South Texas Maze, and this weekend, opening weekend, something for the whole family. Dinosaur George will be there. As luck would have it, I've got Dinosaur George on the phone with me right now. What's up?
Hey, Robert, how is the beautiful city of Uvalde doing?
We are great over here, and we're looking forward to getting over to Hondo here very soon. So where are you checking in from?
Well, I'm based in San Antonio,
okay,
but I have a traveling museum, and we travel all over the state, and of course, COVID has kept that down, but now, exciting for us, this weekend, we get to be back out on the road again.
So this is exciting stuff, and I'm telling you what, everybody loves dinosaurs. It's just, it's fun, it's science, it's exciting, and we want to know all about your presentation, your show, that's going to be this weekend, again, Saturday and Sunday, for opening weekend at Graff 7A Ranch in Hondo. First of all, how is it, what are the times, I guess, that you're going to be, performing?
Well, I'm actually there during all their open hours.
Okay.
And what it is it's a museum exhibit. I'll be there to interact with people, answer questions, and that is, questions from children to adults. But when they come in, we will have our exhibit set up. You'll see bones, teeth, skulls, horns, spikes, eggs, all kinds of stuff from prehistoric life. So I'm not doing an actual set time of lectures.
Okay.
I'm there just to interact the entire time they're open.
Where will you be set up? Do you know that information yet?
Yeah, they have an activities barn where I know they do a lot of music and a lot of concerts and things. So we'll be inside. When you arrive on their grounds, they'll be able to point everybody to where we are. You can also look we'll have a big trailer. When you see a 30-foot long Tyrannosaurus Rex on the side of the trailer, that's a good hint. That's where to go.
So now let's talk about these items you're going to have in your museum. Are these real fossils and whatnot? Are they models? Is it a mix and match of both? What have you got going on there?
It's a combination. What we do is we specialize in really rare and exotic pieces, things that most people would never get to see. So because of that, we make molds of those pieces. We can't take the real pieces because of the value and the scientific significance. So we use a combination. Some of the pieces are the authentic fossils. Some of those are replicas, but they're all actually cast off of original pieces. There's no sculptures. So everything you see is exactly what it looks like. Most people are surprised when they find out that when you go to museums, you rarely ever see the real fossils because the real fossils are so expensive and those are usually stored down in a basement in the collections area where other scientists can study them. So really, it's the exact same things you would see, like if you were in Beijing, China, you would see the exact thing that you're going to see in Hondo, Texas. It's a hand of a dinosaur with enormously long claws. So those would be the replica of them. But, it's a combination of both.
Now, I'm sure you're going to have a lot of cool things to look at. As far as the items you're going to have on hand, which are the things that the kids seem to be most drawn to versus maybe what the adults take most interest in?
Well, there's two things in our exhibit that for the last 9 years have been the top most exciting pieces for kids. That is the jaws of Megalodon, the gigantic shark, and then the skull of a Tyrannosaurus Rex, because T-Rex is the most popular with most kids, but the jaws of that shark are just absolutely astounding. So those two pieces, kids they'll run past everything just to see those two. But the one piece that the adults are mesmerized about is we have the skull of a giant crocodile. It was a crocodile called Dinosuchus. This thing was between 35 and 40 feet long. So we have the skull. And I think it's because adults can immediately identify with the skull of a crocodile. But when they see the size of it, well, first it turns them all back to children. That's the greatest thing about this exhibit. Adults become kids again when they see these things. What's different about in a museum you can't get anywhere near these things. In our exhibit, you're right up next to them. You can get real close to them. So adults are mesmerized by this gigantic crocodile, thinking this thing was the size of an 18-wheeler. But then, like I said, kids come in and scream T-Rex or Megalodon, and they run right to them. And those jaws of that shark are, in fact, this is the first time that Megalodon shark jaws will never be on display in Hondo. I grew up in Hondo. That's where I'm from. That was home. And so it's extra special for me to be going back. But there's never been the jaws of a shark this size there. So for everybody that comes in, you're going to be stunned to believe that there was a shark that size.
Now, tell me this. Now, how do you acquire these pieces? I mean, do you have to just, are there companies that create them, make them? Do you do with some of it? Or how do you acquire them?
It's a combination of both. We have our own casting methods. If I have something that I either have ownership of or have the approval of the original owner, we can mold those pieces ourselves. But there is an industry that supplies museum quality grade molds for museums. Like I had said, museums all display replicas. They don't display the authentic pieces. Sometimes they do a few of them, but not. And so there's actually industries there who make these. And it's funny because people will come in and they'll look at this Tyrannosaurus Rex skull and say, when you tell them it's a replica, they'll say, well, how much is it? You'll tell them it's $15,000. And their jaw hits the floor and they go, why isn't it $50? Well, it's because the scientific significance of the piece and the fact that whoever owns it determines its value. So the pieces could be $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 pieces. But if that was an authentic Tyrannosaurus Rex skull, you'd be looking at $1 million to $2 million just for the skull.
Well, that's insane. That is crazy, crazy. Wow. We are here on the phone with Dinosaur George. You can find more about him at dinosaurgeorge.com. Now, George, you mentioned the Megalodon earlier. It reminded me of that Jason Statham movie that came out a few years ago where she's like, it's a Megalodon. That's my Jason Statham impersonation. But it got me thinking about, I guess fossils, dinosaurs, sharks in movies. Hollywood, man, like I said, kids love Jurassic Park. Adults love it. How does Hollywood get it? Do they get it right most of the time? Do they get it way wrong? How does Hollywood do as far as these bones and stuff go?
Well, they all put too much emphasis on the entertainment, and so they exaggerate a lot of the things. But I will say this about the Jurassic Park whole series. As far as the motion and movement of these animals, it's very realistic, very well done. I enjoy the movies for what they are. It is frustrating sometimes because for young people, they watch these movies and they believe what they're looking at is fact, and that's always difficult. There was a dinosaur in this last one, it's called Indominus Rex. Well, there's no dinosaur. That's not a real dinosaur. So for a lot of kids, they get very disappointed when we don't have an Indominus Rex. So we have to explain to them ours is scientifically accurate. We don't use the Hollywood models. Hollywood, it can be frustrating. They're the only people in the world that if we ever uncover a spaceship, Hollywood would first say, let's add more flashing lights to make it cool.
Right.
And you'd go, what could be more amazing than a 45-foot-long eating machine dinosaur? Why do you feel the need, that it can drive a stick-shift Jeep? I mean, that'll be next. So it is a little frustrating because a lot of it is inaccurate. But I will say that what we saw in Jurassic Park is probably as close to what a walking dinosaur probably looked like.
Now, I'm going to ask you a very specific question about Jurassic Park, because it's always been in the back of my mind. Just how possible is it for dinosaur DNA to be stuck in a mosquito inside like tree sap for millions of years? How feasible actually is that?
Well, one of the things that happens the moment a mosquito ingests blood is that the blood begins to break down. So immediately upon, think of DNA as a cookbook.
Yeah.
And let's say you have a cookbook and the recipe has 1,500 pages. And if you follow every page exactly right, you're going to make the perfect angel food cake. Well, the problem with dinosaur DNA, if in fact we can even find it, is going to be that of the 1,500 pages, 896 pages are not there. If you look at the DNA from the digestive system of a mosquito, well, you might get 3 pages because it's dissolved and digested them. So at this particular point in time, it's not likely that we can recreate a dinosaur. But let me add a caveat to that.
Okay.
I've seen in my lifetime, we were talking about there's no way we would ever know what color a dinosaur is, but now we do. Using laser technology, we can actually tell you the color of a dinosaur. And that was unimaginable 5, 10, 20 years ago. So who knows? You may have a young listener right now, or we may have a young visitor that walks through that exhibit, And the next thing you know, they're sitting on your radio station 10 years from now talking about, now out at the Graff Ranch, we have a live dinosaur. Please bring a gun because this thing kills things. So who knows what the future holds? But for right now, it's unlikely that we can recreate a dinosaur.
Well, curse you, Steven Spielberg. So, well, man, this is great information.
That movie, though, reignited so many people's interest.
Yeah.
The benefits of the movie far exceed any of the inaccuracies because it's done so much for the science of paleontology. Museums benefited from it. My exhibit wouldn't exist, I don't think, if Jurassic Park didn't exist, because I don't know if there'd be the same level of interest with the general public as it is today.
Hey, now, let's not forget Ross Geller from Friends, everybody's favorite paleontologist. How much do you love that show? Is Ross your favorite friend?
You're like Ross. I'm like, no, I'm nothing like Ross. Ross has money. Ross has faith.
Ross has Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah. That pretty much is the big difference between he and I.
No, that's awesome.
We're exactly the same.
Well, again, we've got Dinosaur George here on the phone. He's going to be here in the area, in Hondo, this weekend, kicking off Graff 7A Ranch, the South Texas Maze, again, Saturday and Sunday. And I believe you're going to be back in early November as well, too, right?
Yeah, I saw that on the schedule. Yeah, we'll be back in November.
So go to dinosaurgeorge.com or go to graff7aranch.com. I'm sure you can find details. Now, George, you've also got a Facebook page as well, so everybody find that. And I guess let me just talk about your official background. I think I heard you're more of like a self-taught paleontologist, or what is your background in the science?
Well, I was actually in retail for years, okay. And that was before I decided. In fact, I'll tell you the coolest thing. I used to work for a company called Harris Western Center, and we had a store right there on South Getty, there in beautiful Uvalde. That's why I'm so familiar with Uvalde.
Very cool.
So, so I was in retail, and my retail career took off. I advanced. The last job I had, I was the director of operations for this huge chain, all these stores. But my love had always been dinosaurs, and I just made a decision in my life that I was, money isn't the most important thing, and I wanted to do what I liked. And so 23 years ago, this past August, 23 years ago, I quit my career, and I opened up a store, and from that, it evolved to now I have this big traveling museum, and now I'm doing virtual lessons online. I'm speaking to kids all over the world. It's hard to. I was this morning. I was on Zoom with some people in Germany.
Wow!
So it's been an amazing change and an amazing career. But all through that, I continued to study and learn about paleontology. I didn't go to school to become a professional paleontologist. But in hindsight, for me, it worked out okay because I have the ability to do whatever I want. I'm not stuck studying one particular thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I know a little about a lot. So anyone that comes up that has a conversation with me, I can relate to, the 6-year-old child that loves dinosaurs or the 80-year-old man who talks about something he found on his ranch when he was young. So for me, it's worked out to be really good. And I think my forte is my ability to interact with the public. I can go from talking to a 3-year-old to a 93-year-old and stay at those same levels. So it's what makes my job so much fun.
Well, man, it sounds like it's going to be a fantastic learning experience again this weekend at Graff 7A Ranch. Dinosaur George here on the phone. Now, obviously, we want to support what you do. Like you mentioned earlier at the top of the interview, it's been kind of tough with the pandemic for the last 6 months or so. But from what I understand, you can take this show on the road like you're doing here, and you even do some virtual like tutoring and lessons and presentations. Let's get into some of that stuff, too.
Sure. Well, yeah, the museum is designed to go into elementary schools. Mm-hmm. That's what we've done for the last 9 years. We've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of elementary schools. We go in, we set it up, we convert the gym into a museum, and then all the students come through. But of course, with COVID, everybody's sort of in limbo as to whether or not that's a thing they want to do. So we then switched our focus, and our focus is now virtual. So now I do virtual lessons online. We have, I think, 12 different subject matters. We do classrooms. Sometimes we do entire schools. Sometimes we do grade levels. We've had Boy Scout troops, Girl Scout groups, birthday parties. We've had people have me do a virtual a lesson for the birthday party where, we don't put any limits on it. So, somebody's having a birthday, they'll invite 40 or 50 of their friends, and I'll do a lesson for them. So these are all live, which makes them fun. They're interactive. I can do Q&A. So it's like I'm there, but I don't have to be there. And since we can't be there, this is the best alternative. Still cool because they see fossils and bones. I hold up pieces. And, when you're learning about T-Rex, and all of a sudden I hold up the jaw of one and you go, oh my gosh, I had no idea they were that big.
Wow.
You still get the fun part of that, but that's kind of how we've adjusted. We've always had our store. We sell real fossils, rocks, minerals, crystals, that kind of stuff. So all of that combined is helping us get through this tough time. I hope that when things go back to normal, and they ultimately will, we'll be back on the road with the museum, because the museum for me is the most fun, and it's the thing that affects most people because they see so many things. You never realize there's 10 different kinds of saber-toothed cats, not one. Or, you find out that there was a fish whose skull is the size of a wrecking ball. This thing was horrifying. All of these things you get to see, and I can't always show them virtually. But virtually right now is where we're going.
Well, man, I certainly don't want to give away any of the coolness of the show, but give me a little sample here. Tell me this. What is maybe the biggest misconception about dinosaurs? What do most of us think that's absolutely wrong? And then give me something like a really cool fact that nobody knows or not enough people talk about that you really think is really interesting.
Well, I think what adults get wrong is the idea that dinosaurs are cold-blooded reptiles. And that's not true. Now, we were all taught that. We were taught that dinosaurs are lizards, but they're not. They're really nothing like lizards. They're actually birds, are very bird-like. Birds evolved from dinosaurs. So when you look at a dinosaur and you're, of course, amazed at the size and the scope of the animal, when you realize that these are fast-moving, probably warm-blooded animals, it really gives you a whole different look. When you look at a Tyrannosaurus rex, don't think of a big lizard. Think of a roadrunner the size of an 18-wheeler. That's what you have with the Tyrannosaurus rex. And the most amazing thing, I think, that a lot of people don't know, a lot of young people don't know, and that is that birds are now classified as avian dinosaurs. So we can say dinosaurs are not dead. They're living in our backyard. If you've got a mockingbird, if you've got a hummingbird, if you've got chickens, you have a dinosaur. You're seeing a living dinosaur. Dinosaurs are so skeleton. Their skeletons are so similar to birds that birds are now classified as dinosaurs.
So that's one thing that Sam Neill in Jurassic Park had right. That's good.
Yes, exactly. And they were kind of early with that.
Yeah.
That's the one thing, again, to talk about, I can nitpick Jurassic Park,
right?
But man, did they have some things right. And when he said they're birds, man, he hit the nail on the head.
Well, very cool, man. I'm learning so much, and I can't wait to learn even more again this weekend at Graff 7A Ranch in Hondo. It's going to be a great time. Well, what else? I know that, go ahead and give me, I was looking at your website briefly, and I know you've done the press, you've done TV, you've done all kinds of good stuff. Give me a few career highlights, some really cool places that you've done your presentation.
Well, career-wise, I used to host a television series on the History Channel called Jurassic Fight Club. I actually wrote it and hosted it. So that was a highlight of my career for two reasons. One, we got to travel all over, and I got to go behind the scenes in museums and see some of the most fascinating things in the world. But the second reason why it was a highlight is because I got to meet all my heroes. And, you always hear that thing, don't meet your heroes. I'm so glad mine were all as kind and courteous as I had hoped they were going to be. So those are some highlights for me.
Cool.
And then again, I think that show's been seen by probably 40 million people by this point because it was back in 2007. So it's always neat to think that people that you never may meet know who you are and have sort of an association with you. So those have been highlights to me. But for me, probably the most fun I ever had with the museum is we did a special museum event at Morgan's Wonderland, which is a little park here in San Antonio that is designed for special needs kids. And we had seeing impaired children come in. Well, what we did with them is we dropped the barrier ropes that people stand behind, and we let those kids feel and touch every single item. We even picked them up so they could put their arms around the skull of a Tyrannosaurus Rex. To see the expression on their face when they got to, for the first time in their life, experience the size of a dinosaur, it was fascinating. We had a little girl who I picked up and held because she was so little she couldn't reach anything. And we started with the Megalodon shark jaws. And I said, okay, we're starting at the bottom, and her little hand ran all the way around the mouth, and she kept saying, it's still going, it's still going, it's still going. And when she finally reached all the way, and I said, now you're back where you started, she said, this thing could eat me. I thought, you know, you and I take for granted every day that we wake up and we see the sunshine and we see the animals. When you're seeing impaired, you don't. So when somebody tells you that a dinosaur is big, well, what is big to you? Well, for that little girl and for all of those kids, they can tell you what big is because they had their arms around dinosaurs. And that's something you would never get to see in a museum. So for me, it'll always stick with me as one of the things I love about our exhibit is when I have a child who is wheelchair bound, who can't get up close, or we have a seeing impaired child, they get the treatment that they wouldn't get anywhere else, and it makes them part of the event. And that's my favorite memory of the Traveling Museum.
Well, what a fantastic story. And I mean, I'm sure that you are just making so many wonderful memories for, you know, kids of all ages and some adults in there too. So again, Dinosaur George, man, it's been really cool talking to you. Don't miss the big show, actually all weekend, Saturday and Sunday at Graff 7A Ranch. They've got the 7-acre maze. They got a hayride. They got that big sliding mountain thing and lots of great food. The pumpkin patch will be open later, I think, in the month. And then, of course, live music starts next weekend. But this weekend, to kick it all off, we've got Dinosaur George. Go to dinosaurgeorge.com. Any other information that we should know, or maybe any information for parents that as they prepare their kids to come out and see your exhibit?
Well, we have a traveling gift shop with it as well.
Okay.
And so, and our prices literally start at $1, and I think $50 is the most expensive item. We're very aware of, you know, parents with multiple kids where you come in and you get ambushed in these gift shops where the kids want something, but everything's $50. You can come in. We have beautiful rock specimens that are $5. We have replica raptor claws that are $5. So it's very affordable. So if you've got kids that want something, they can buy real fossils or they can buy replicas, or we have books and videos. So all that's available as well. So when they come in, parents don't have to worry about being ambushed with, oh my gosh, you know, my child wants a $10 balloon. We don't do that stuff. So yeah, bring a camera. Pictures are welcome. All the pictures that you want. Video cameras are welcome. We do all kinds of neat stuff. So they can even see, we'll even have a little baby dinosaur that it looks so real you swear it's alive. So if you want to pet a baby dinosaur, come out there this weekend, we'll let you do that.
And certainly bring some extra spending money and get some of those educational souvenirs. And especially since we are kicking back to school, it's good to get those kids' brainwaves moving again. So, well, man, again, like I said, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, sir. And I look forward to maybe shaking her hand, or at the very least, you know, bumping elbows this weekend. Okay. So,
you got it. Well, Uvalde, absolutely love you. And, didn't love you when we played football because your team beat us consistently, but I'm over that. So if you're from Uvalde, you come out, please tell me that you heard me on Robert's show, and I'd love to get to meet you and meet everybody. And Robert, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Oh, very cool, sir. Again, go to dinosaurgeorge.com and graff7aranch.com to get all the details about the upcoming event this weekend. And that'll wrap it up here with Dinosaur George. I'm Robert Miguel. This is UvaldeRadio.net. Thank you, sir.
You bet.